Well, hello again, everybody. This is John Norris at Trading Perspectives. As always, we have our good friend Sam Clement. Sam, say hello.
Hey John, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastically, Sam. Thank you for asking. Also, I think there are a lot of people out there feeling a lot better about themselves, getting into their, what Fox News would call their bikini bodies or what have you. And it's thanks to some weight loss drugs that are hitting the market with full force. And really, Sam, kind of tell you that the way these things are hitting the market, the way people are using them, the way people are losing weight, is this a trend that's going to continue? And what are the impacts on just future American consumer behavior?
Yeah, well, look, these things, like any drug, have probably been in the works for longer than it actually seems. But it seems like it, in the past year, and really it just continues to ramp up more and more, has just come, it feels like it's come out of nowhere. And it feels like it's being sold as like a miracle drug, really.
Yeah.
And, on the Bloomberg terminal that we have, you can search for words that are used in earnings calls, and it is the talk of the town, truly, across Wall Street, and the impact that it's going to have if it is some miracle drug. There's talks of it, decreasing addictive tendencies, consumption habits.
Yeah.
Obviously, being a drug, it's supposed to have health benefits too, weight loss, all this stuff, and some are being sold and some aren't. But it really has taken the medical industry and really just the consumer industry by storm.
Well, the thing is, and I'm going to butcher their names. I'm obviously not a pharmaceutical expert, at least in pronunciation of things, but I think Wegovy is how you pronounce one of these, Ozempic is another, and Mounjaro are the big three that people talk a lot about. Insurance doesn't pick up a lot of this for weight loss. Now, they'll pick it up if you've been diagnosed with diabetes. They'll cover some of that and what have you. However, a lot of physicians are now prescribing this solely as a weight loss drug. And that has some implications because, let's face it, according to whichever stat you want to consider, some half to three-quarters of the United States is obese by some measure. It's basically off of the body mass index or BMI, which is flawed. But even so, you have to have some measure. But with half to three-quarters of the U.S. population being obese, obviously that has health implications. Moving forward. So I'm wondering why the insurance companies would be so hesitant to not cover some of this, understanding that they'll be saving money way down the road. I mean, not even that far down the road by not doing things like getting new knees, getting new hips,
new heart, arteries.
Artery damage, vascular problems, obviously arteries. Vascular problems, and just the whole wealth of other health issues that come from people being obese. It seems like insurance companies would be saying, finally, because in the past, a lot of weight loss drugs or schemes seem like so much fish oil or snake oil salesmen.
And, there's still, I think, and rightfully so, probably, the drug companies, oftentimes drugs come out for one purpose and they find out that there's other massive benefits to it. It's a pretty normal thing, but I think it takes a while for the industry to say, okay, we kind of came up with it for this. Maybe it is good for the original purpose, but it also has this massive, oftentimes positive, unintended consequence.
And if I'm not mistaken, the three that I mentioned, their primary purpose was to increase pancreas activity and increase insulin
it's for
production.
Diabetics, and most of the commercials I've seen for them still say pretty clearly that this is not a weight loss drug.
Although
they advertise that it helps people lose weight, often in those things.
It's not a weight loss drug. Wink. Wink.
But what it's not necessarily being sold by the company as, but what everyone's talking about with it, by that definition, what it's being sold as is something that not only helps you lose weight, it also is apparently helping change consumer habits, actually. And that's where I think has caused the spread to not just be on, maybe the medical device companies. There's been a lot of fear on, oh my gosh, people are going to get healthier and they're not going to need weight loss or medical devices as much. But we've even seen consumer staple companies and grocery stores and, just big box chains coming out and talking about this in their earnings calls. What's the impact of this? How is it impacting consumer habits? And there is pretty strong data out already talking about how it's changing consumer habits. So it is, it's probably still early. There's probably going to be some growth in it still. But it's shocking when you see something that could be this miracle drug.
And apparently, these drugs somehow trick your brain into feeling fuller longer, and they keep food in your stomach longer, or something along those lines. I don't know all the ins and outs of the medications themselves, but let's face it, if all of a sudden you're not as hungry as you used to be because you're taking medication that is telling you or tricking you into feeling full, you're probably not visiting that middle section of the grocery store. And the middle section of the grocery store is where all the processed foods are. If you're not visiting that could have some pretty dramatic impact on a lot of companies around the country, if not the world, let alone farmers.
Yeah, and it's even going so far as gambling companies are talking about it. I mean, it's still, again, pretty early in studies on,
Now, wait a second. Gambling companies?
Yeah, they're talking about how it is causing less dopamine to be released from things like gambling and alcohol and things of that nature. So truly changing what people even want to do. Not even just, you're right that it's that they're full, they don't need to eat as much.
Yeah, I mean, I began to think that what sounded like a miracle drug sounds like a little bit of a bummer.
maybe that'll get people to take it less. I don't know.
I've lost all this weight. Now I don't want to. I don't want to have fun. I want to gamble. Don't want to drink. I really don't want to do anything.
What's the point of even losing the weight anymore? But no, again, I don't know the validity of all that, and I'm not sure that the answers are super clear on it, but I can't think of something medical related that has become as widespread, possibly impacting as these GLP-1 drugs. I mean, if it's impacting really your brain, the dopamine levels, your weight, and also your consumption habits, which impact your weight as well, that's about as widespread for a single drug that you could take.
Well, it's the thing with it is eventually, health insurers will start covering this for weight loss, but then we're going to run into that problem where we're going to have doctors prescribing these drugs to people that truly don't need to lose weight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the person who's 40 pounds overweight. Hey, here you go. You need to get this and get back down to a more reasonable BMI. They'll be prescribing it to people that, hey, I'm going to the beach and I need to drop a quick 20, and let me cover this, and that all of a sudden kind of defeats kind of the real health benefit from all this is, hey, we've got these wonderful things that can get people back to a normal weight, also maybe somehow trick them into leading a healthier lifestyle, change a lot of negative habits and what have you. But then all of a sudden, it's unfortunately going to turn into more of just a cosmetic
and you're
issue.
Probably already seeing kind of the first iteration of that. I'm not speaking, I'm just kind of assuming here, you can probably find places to give you drugs or prescribe you drugs that aren't for weight loss currently. Pretty much just for weight loss. And so that's kind of the first iteration. The next iteration would be if they ever do prescribe it just for weight loss, then you start prescribing it to people who really don't need to be losing weight in the sense where it takes medical intervention. So that's kind of, I think, the natural process for anything. I mean, you've seen it with all kinds of drugs. People start to loosen up the actual restrictions on who should be getting it and why they should be getting it. So it seems like that would probably end up being the case.
Well, I can very easily envision a day down here in Alabama where people will go, I'm going to go to Crystal and I'm going to get a double order of chili cheese fries, and I'm just going to give myself a little injection of this Wegovy or this Manjaro, and I'll be thinner than a rail. Do you think that's a possibility of that?
Sure. Look, people, I think it's one of the biggest flaws, but people tend to want to take the easy way out, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, listen. I mean, a shot into the midsection sounds like a lot easier than going to Lifetime Fitness and doing a bunch of reps, doesn't it?
Well, I guess so for most people.
Well, come on, it is easier.
Sure. By definition, that's easier.
You see, in case you haven't guessed it, Sam would much rather go to Lifetime Fitness and put in the reps, whereas yours truly here might be more willing
trading perspectives a little bit.
might be willing to put the old needle into the abdomen. Get my chiseled abs through medicine.
Yeah.
That works out nicely. No, but in all seriousness, though, if these things do work out, I mean, think of the implication for companies, a lot of consumer staple companies and medical device companies, that all of a sudden, hey, we've built an entire business empire based on making you fat, and then we've built an entire business around coming up with devices because you're so fat.
Yeah.
And that's truly, I mean, that sounds kind of crazy.
Artery stents and...
I mean, let's face it. I mean, this is the point in the program where I've got to put out all the caveats. Anything that we say here is our opinion alone, and not necessarily that of Oakworth Capital Bank or any of its shareholders, directors, associates, stakeholders, anything. Just me and Sam. Then also any decisions that you make or transactions that you embark upon, based on anything that you hear, that you do so at your own peril.
Yeah.
And we're not market makers in any stocks, all that stuff. There are the caveats. Let's face it, let's take a company like PepsiCo. PepsiCo, well-run company. We all know what they do. Sugary sodas, and if it's not a sugary soda, then they're putting
Frito-Lays.
I mean, then they're putting some kind of sugar substitute in it that's probably worse for you than the sugar. They do have some bottled water and some other stuff, but let's think about Frito-Lay. I mean, that stuff's delicious. Mm-hmm. But it's a moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips. And if all of a sudden people are losing weight and changing their eating habits, what do you think some of the low-hanging fruit, pun intended, is going to be in terms of getting cut when people are leading a healthier lifestyle? Yeah,
I mean, it's obviously those awful, crappy, terrible things for you that'll...
I mean, I would say awful for you. Crappy. I don't know, man. It's a little Frito scoop. That's okay. All
right, yeah.
Your nacho cheese Dorito. You don't like that?
Every now and then, some Mama Goldbergs. But that's it's not just causing. It's not like a bariatric surgery where you just can't physically eat as much. It's apparently changing the actual consumption habit.
Yes.
What you actually want.
Instead of attacking the stomach, instead of attacking the stomach like you do with bariatric surgery, it's doing something with your brain.
Yeah.
The chemicals in your brain.
Yeah. It's again, I haven't seen anything like this in the medical industry in quite some time that's just so widespread like this. And even beyond just these groups of drugs themselves, I'm sure there's downsides. Of course, there pretty much is with every medicine you would take.
Downside with just about everything.
Yeah, but it really makes me optimistic about the medical industry over the next 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, the progress we've made, understanding the human genome, drugs we've come out with, we're getting so close to curing so many types of diseases. We have cured a lot of types of diseases that have been around for hundreds, thousands of years, and so we were making so much progress. I think there's some things that are going to be more important than others, but it's clearly hard to be pessimistic on the rapid growth in really just the biotech industry.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, and for long years I have maintained that at some point we'll get to what Theranos is trying to do.
Yeah.
You get a drop of blood and put it into the system or technology or what have you, and then you'll come up with, hey, this is your health profile. Here's your pharmaceutical regimen. This is what you're allergic to. This is what you need to eat. This is the ideal type of exercise for you, and people will be able to lead a much healthier.
Biohacking is the term for it.
And so when people will live healthier, longer lives and be productive for a longer period of time, and that just means we'll just have to increase social security age out to 75 to 80 to what have you, because we're going to have to put people out on ice floes in order to get rid of them. That is, if there are any ice floes left. Your thoughts on that?
Fingers crossed on that one. But no, that you're spot on, and it almost seems kind of scary. It makes me imagine like a world like the movie Wall-E, which I've never actually seen the full movie, but the animated movie, everyone's in their little wheelchairs and not really moving around. And
That's because everyone's so fat, right?
yeah, everyone's so fat and unhealthy. But if we get to a point where, hey, you don't really have to go work out anymore, you don't have to eat healthy anymore, you can do whatever you want, and we can just shove you full of drugs, and that's the easy way. That is not necessarily the right way to go about doing things. I'm really excited about biohacking and the possibilities that it has, but I wish it would be tailored towards, hey, based on your genetics, these are the, nutrient deficiencies you're prone to having. Different people from different areas of the world are prone to different deficiencies.
Yeah. Like, apparently East Asians are more prone to be lactose intolerant.
Sure, and vitamin deficiencies and what have you. Certain regions are like very, very prone to vitamin D deficiencies and things of that nature. So here, maybe we supplement that with eating more fatty fish or what have you. But so it's a balancing.
You mean like fried catfish?
Sure, yeah. Similar.
I don't think you meant fried catfish.
No, I didn't mean fried catfish. But so it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
There's obviously tons of, like I said, I'm very optimistic on the trends we've seen in biotech specifically, and we're going to continue to see. We're just so close on so many fronts. But doing it the right way and really getting that data we need without just taking the easy way out, because I think that could be a long term thing to play out, but I think that would be highly detrimental if we gear it more towards just taking the easy way out.
Sometimes the easy way out will help to pay for the long run, if you catch my drift. People are vain, just absolutely vain. And if, all of a sudden you get these people that need to lose 10 pounds before they go to the beach, start taking these drugs, all of a sudden that's money being fueled into the companies where they can spend on R&D for other habits. So because of human vanity, that actually might spur, even greater revolutions in biotech moving forward. So I hear you, and it's horrible to sit there and say, oh, we're doing all this, but it's just due to cosmetics, what have you. That's a kind of base sort of type thing, and
that's been what's caused these drugs to. It hasn't been. They've been great for diabetics. Apparently, you have to take it less often than insulin, what have you. So it's been awesome for the actual intended purpose, but that has not been at all what has been talked about.
Listen, I know people around my neighborhood that all of a sudden look to be about 20, 30 pounds lighter in a very short period of time.
Calling it Ozempic face, because you're losing weight so quickly that your face doesn't really kind of readjust to losing weight. It just starts to droop a little bit.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah. At least that's what I've heard it be called. I don't think that's a scientific term.
Well, that doesn't sound very desirable.
I'm sure it probably gets better, but rapid weight loss, and that now everyone's kind of like, just like if you saw someone bulk up with 40 pounds of muscle in a couple months, you're probably assuming there's some pharmaceuticals involved.
You're absolutely right. So, but I want to go back to talking a little bit about changing consumer behavior and just its overall impact on the economy. Let's think about that for a second. If all of a sudden Americans weighed 25% less, consumed 25% less just calories in a day.
Yeah.
What sort of impact is that going to have on our big agriculture? What sort of impact is that going to have on a lot of fast food?
We saw airlines talk about it.
Yeah.
We saw airline CEOs. Like I was saying, every earnings call was talking about it, what the impact of if the average American weighed 20% less. That's more seats that you could put on a plane, what have you. So it's absolutely widespread. It's going to change what we would probably need to farm to some extent, the amount that we would need to farm maybe to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably going to be offset by population growth and what have you, if we continue to grow our population.
Well, then people will be healthier and productive for longer.
Yeah. Again, I can't think of another, possible. We're talking about scenarios of what the next several decades would look like with a massively healthier population.
Well, listen, I can only hope that the insurance companies get off the stick and start paying for all this type of stuff, because my gosh, I want to lose some weight and I'm not ready to go to Lifetime Fitness and all that stuff. But in all seriousness, though, you start thinking about average American losing 25 pounds, multiply that by 330 million. That's a lot of weight.
It's a lot of weight.
That's
a lot of calories.
That's a lot of weight. That's a lot of calories. That means planes are. The average plane leaves Birmingham with about 150 people on it, 25 pounds apiece.
Yeah.
So that starts adding up. That's over an extra ton.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, not using as much jet fuel.
Yeah.
Just all these things. And so I think it's a virtuous thing. And I think we need to be encouraging that type of behavior, as well as just obviously more people hitting the gym and not doing their primary shopping in the middle of the grocery store and all that stuff. Anything that can help to spur that virtuous cycle, I think, is ultimately not a bad thing.
No. I'm excited.
I'm excited about it too. I'm excited also for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama to cover it. All right. With that being said, guys, we always love to hear from you all. So if you have any comments or questions, please, by all means, let us know. You can always drop us a line at tradingperspectives@oakworth.com or leave us a review on the podcast outlet of your choice. As always, if you're interested in reading more or hearing more of what we have to say or what we think, you can always go to oakworth.com, OAKWORTH.com. Take a look underneath the Thought Leadership tab and find all kinds of exciting information, including links to previous Trading Perspectives podcasts, links to our blog, Common Sense, and then links to our quarterly magazine, Macro and Market, and the new one's coming out really kind of momentarily.
Yeah.
If not today, then tomorrow. So by all means, please go out there and check it out. Sam, do you have anything else to add on this exciting topic?
That's all I got.
That's all I've got today, too. Y'all take care.